Hello, blessed feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, December 12th, blessed second week of Advent. I just I just love the total weirdness of like sitting in my office and weirdly sitting in front of my laptop talking into the ether to like 10 people. I just get such a kick out of it, and that's always kind of been my style. Hey, maybe one person hears you and is consoled or shored up or laughs or something. I'm totally thrilled with that. Um, so anyway, here we go. Um, I just want to put in a plug, as I will continually, especially now that I'm a novice, a Benedictine novice oblate, officially with my Saint Benedict medal hanging on the wall above my desk. But I mean, I've prayed the office for years, but now I'm praying the office of readings. I would usually just do morning prayer, but as you may know, you can do the office of readings, aka usually it's called vigils in a monastery, the first hour of the day. Um, like here's my little Advent. You can get a four volume liturgy of the hour. So there's this a special um, a special volume for Advent, and I just love the liturgy during this time and the readings and Isaiah and but anyway, I was struck this morning in morning prayer, Psalm 43. Just even I really don't like to be especially sort of topical, but the first lines: "Defend me, O God, and plead my cause against a godless nation." From deceitful and cunning men, rescue me, my God. Um, you just see how these psalmists really got the human condition down pat, and they're a great. They're a great just a, they're some of the greatest poetry that the world has ever known, that's ever been produced, and they take root, the psalms, in you if you pray them continually, as you do if you pray the office, because there's kind of a they repeat over time. um anyway, so yeah, Our Lady of Guadalupe. um I had a hard time at first getting on board with Mary, because mostly because of my own very checkered past as a kind of years in the bars, and I didn't even know this. I read it this morning that Our Lady of Guadalupe is patroness of, among other things, I think. I mean, I think she's just like the worldwide patron of the missions or of humanity, but she's a patroness of the unborn, which is personally very touching to me. Um, and we read the or one of the I think you can. There's a choice of gospels today. I'm going to go to mass at 5:15 this afternoon. But behold the handmaid of the Lord, the Magnificat. Behold the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be done unto me according to thy word. And of course, if you pray the Angelus, which is another beautiful Catholic prayer, that's part of that. And I just have no problem with that at all. Um, Margaret Atwood's dystopian, complete misreading of the passage novel to the contrary. Um, my experience has been, if you're a really strong, quote unquote, woman, and strong, in my weakness, I'm strong. I mean, I don't mean strong. I mean, I'm strong willed, but that's not the point. So if you're a really uh, sort of passionate, independent in the way we profess to want to be independent woman, you never feel oppressed or like, I so don't want to be a man, and I'm not in competition with men and don't have a huge problem with men, because my experience has been, if you respect yourself and if you have the whatever it is, insanity, heart to sort of forge your own way, um, you don't have an axe to grind. You're living in a kind of freedom and a kind of risk that requires everything that you have. So you don't have time to sit around feeling uh, like a victim or militating for more rights. I love this. There's a Simone Weil quote, and she says, "Can anyone imagine St. Francis of Assisi talking about rights?" And that's not to say, of course, civil rights, human rights, very important, beautiful thing. But you know what? I understand what she's saying, which is that as a follower of Christ, your point of reference, your kind of fulcrum rests on a very different. Now I'm sure I'm mixing metaphors. Fulcrum axis. You um it's not, it's how much can you give, not I don't have as much as you, and I want, I need to have what you have, I need to be what you are. It's a very, very different, I think for me, my prayer is always freedom from the bondage of self, of my own fear, my own ego, my own competition, my greed for attention, approval, honor, etc. Um, yeah, but and I also feel like men and women should totally, I love the idea that we have different roles. The church is the bride of Christ, and this is why one reason symbolically kind of that men are priests. It just all fits together. And I totally think men should have their own clubs and stuff that they do. I mean, we need each other so much, men and women, and we also need our separate places. I don't want a guy in my bathroom. I don't want a guy in my, when I'm sitting around my women friends talking about the stuff that we do. Um, I think that the complementarity that is naturally, we're made to procreate and bring new life into the world, and everything stems from that. And so there's something so right about having our uh, separate, not rigidly defined, obviously. And I think the strides that have been made, and yes, women can be whatever, mechanics, airline pilots, CEOs, of course, that's all beautiful. And that wasn't the case for a long time. So that's nice. But I feel like real freedom consists or results in the ability to offer yourself fully. So for me, it's like, oh, by all means, handmaid of the Lord, take me, you take me with me and do with me as you will. Um, Look at the saints, the female saints who I love, Maria Goretti, I love the Virgin Martyrs, Saint Maria Goretti, who was stabbed to death rather than yield her virginity. The naysayers say, oh, what a pathetic, a kind of fetishization of virginity. And that, of course, can happen too. But to me, it's like, oh no, that's a really, she feared for the soul of the guy who was going to rape her. I mean, that is hardcore. Um, so yeah, and just, I mean, any number, Dorothy Day, Elizabeth Ann Seton, these nuns through the ages, Benedict of the Cross, went to Auschwitz singing the Psalms in a way. I mean, these are the women I emulate. And they just didn't have they didn't have the axe to grind. I wish, anyway, here's another book that I am loving. I've had this for years. It's called The Measure of My Days by Florida Scott-Maxwell. These are the kind of books I dig out of God only knows where. You can see it bristling with Post-its. I'm going to write a piece on column on it soon. But Florida Scott, here's the blurb in the back. Age puzzles me. This is from her. She wrote it when she was in her 80s, the book. I thought it was a quiet time. My 70s were interesting and fairly serene, but my 80s are passionate. I grow more intense as I age. To my own surprise, I burst out with hot conviction. Only a few years ago, I enjoyed my tranquility, Now I am so disturbed by the outer world and by human quality in general that I want to put things right, as though I still owed a debt to life. I must calm down. I am far too frail to indulge in moral fervor. So she's passionate, she's smart, she thinks deeply and reads, but she has these great passages about equality, which to her is a notion that is simply, I think to her and to any truly thinking person, that is simply impossible and is not equality, meaning sameness, and is not the way the world is set up. So I'm just going to read this one sort of passage that, I mean, think of this in terms of the the quote dialogue or the that we have today, or rather the, I should say, the ideology that presses down on us ever harder. Anyway, she says, while equality is thought possible, when did she write this book? Probably 1940s or something like that. She's born in 1883. But I feel like what she has to say is so timely. Okay, 1968, the book was published. While equality is thought possible, even a basic right, I want to remember the stimulus and interest of inequality. At once I feel heartless, as though I might wound or dishonor someone who had had less than I. The degree of our lack naturally determines the keenness of our claim. I have lacked much, vital things, and the ache has spurred me to intense living. But isn't reality the rousing shock we all need? And do we not lose ourselves in pretense if the truth and tragedy of inequality is not accepted? If we could be equal, what would happen to reverence and compassion? And I think, again, not to refer to current events, but I think we are seeing, yeah, what has happened to reverence and compassion and just basic common humanity. When I see nature's inherent inequality, I melt and want to be tender. If one is going to be truthful, one has to be very tender. To respect difference, to try to understand difference is the only way. The imagination must be stretched to its widest, every wince of self knowledge accepted. All this, of course, but never accept the utter unreality of wishing for equality. It would mean that individuality went, goals vanished, and you sank in the static. I cannot see it as a fact, but hear it as the cry of unlived pride. She's talking about the way wrong kind of pride. Who would be equal to whom? Do we all go as low as we can to prove we are above no one? So there you go. Something to think out. And she um, extrapolates on that or elaborates on that. And yeah, The Measure of My Days is the book, and her name is Florida, as in the state, Scott-Maxwell. Blurb by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, who wrote that book, great book about something about the sea. Anyway, so I'm just going to close with this, a poem. This is another. I've been reading a poem every morning, and I'm on a book called Astonishments: Selected Poems of Anna Kamienska, excuse me. Little accent over the N. Kamienska was a Polish poet, 20th century, suffered deeply. Privation, poverty, was silenced, of course, by regimes, or yeah, just oppressed, persecuted. And her poems are absolutely, yeah, they're astonishing. she says, my literary generation didn't enter poetry accompanied by fanfares of critics. We were learning to write amidst the rat-tat-tat of firing squads and bomb explosions. But she writes a lot about her mother, who was widowed early and raised 4 kids on her own. But anyway, I'm just going to read this one poem. And I think she was raised Catholic and then fell away from the faith. And then her beloved husband died, and she came back. She came back to the Catholic Church. I've been searching. Not I didn't spend a ton of time, but there seems to be very little biographical information about her, and very few books. Astonishments is one of them, and it includes Astonishments is the main one. It includes at the end excerpts from her really wonderful notebooks, but she has a couple other books, but every site I've been to says, oh, they're not available. So I gotta read up a little bit. If anyone knows anything about her, let me know. Also, before I read this poem, I published a piece in Angeles a couple of weeks ago about this lovely young woman in Los Angeles, Nydia Mora, who has taken it upon herself to document the kind of street art Our Lady of Guadalupe's that, if you live in LA or have ever been there, are all over the place. They're on murals, they're on the doors of hardware stores, they're on chop shops, they're on the walls of taco places. And she just goes around, and she doesn't fancy herself a photographer. She considers herself a documentarian. She has an exhibit of her work at the Forest Lawn Museum. Who knew there's a museum at that giant cemetery? Anyway, I'll put the link in the little notes or whatever they are, little section beneath the YouTube. So anyway, here is Anna Kamienska, and the poem is Annunciation. As just in case anyone doesn't know, the Annunciation is when the angel Gabriel came to the Blessed Virgin Mary and announced or asked if she would be willing to bear the Son of God into the world, and his kingdom will have no end. And she, like any of us, she didn't concentrate on like, oh, how wonderful. She said, how can this be? Because I had no relations with a man, and the Holy Spirit overshadows her, or the angel overshadows her, and she says the big yes, on which, to me, the whole cosmos depends. She said, yes, let it be done. Behold, the handmaid of the Lord, let it be done unto me according to thy word. So anyway, here's Annunciation by Anna Kamienska. He stood wrapped in air, said as angels do, have no fear. Then he proclaimed something in a language I didn't comprehend. Lord, how much we don't understand of the most important things. Then I was left alone. No one can know how lonely it is when an angel departs. The world is then immense, open and empty. You lack voice to describe it. No hand is friendly enough. Words are all mute and tethered. From now on, even in eternity, is too short for awaiting. So yeah, because after the Annunciation, the last line of the passage, as you probably know, is, and then the angel departed from her. So there you are, the deep, deep mystery in which we plunge each day. So again, blessed Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and as we proceed onward through the second week of Lent. Thanks.